Hello dear students, last class we have discussed about Morley's law and polarization of light by reflection, Brewster's law. In Brewster's law, a refractive index of the given medium is equal to tangent of the polarizing angle or Brewster's angle. And today I am going to take another concept, that is selective absorption or dichroism. So what is the meaning of this selective absorption or dichroism? Selective absorption or dichroism. So what is the meaning of this selective absorption? So when light is made to pass through certain crystals like tourmaline, then that light splits up into two beams polarized at right angles to each other. And among these two beams, the crystal is going to absorb one of the beams and transmits the other, and hence the transmitted light is plane polarized. This property of the crystals is known as selective. That means among those two rays, that crystal is going to select. So one light ray is going to absorb by the crystal and transmits the other. And hence this property of the crystals is known as selective absorption or dichroism. The crystals which are exhibiting this property, those crystals are known as dichroic. So these are some terms. So these terms are important for the competitive examination purpose. So first note on the definition of selective absorption or dichroism. When a light is made to pass through certain crystals like tourmaline, it split up into two beams polarized at right angles. To each other. The crystal strongly absorb one of the beams and transmits the other. This property of the crystal crystals is known as selective absorption. Or dichroism. And the crystals exhibiting this property are known as dichroic. The crystals exhibiting this property are known as dichroic. That means if you are going to consider a crystal, so this is the crystal. If light is made to pass through this crystal, then it splits into two refracted rays. So here these two refracted rays are polarized. That means this ray contains light vibrations parallel to the plane of the board. Then this light ray contains light vibrations perpendicular to the plane of the board. So these two vibrations are perpendicular to each other, and these two light rays are also polarized, because along these two light rays, light vibrations are restricted to only one plane. In the upper one, light vibrations are perpendicular. Dots represents light vibrations are perpendicular to the plane of the board. In lower one, light vibrations are parallel to the plane of the board. Depending upon nature of this crystal, it is going to absorb among one of the beam among these two refracted rays. It absorbs one of the ray among these two and hence transmits the other. Thus the transmitted light is also completely plane polarized. It may transmit this light ray or this light ray. In both the cases, light vibrations are restricted to one plane, and hence that transmitted light is completely plane polarized. This property of the crystals is known as selective absorption. That means it is going to select, or it is also known as dichroism. The crystals exhibiting or showing this type of property are known as dichroic. Example, we can write a tourmaline as the example in order to identify this phenomena. That means when a light, or you can say unpolarized light. So this is the, when a light is made to pass through, means this light is unpolarized light. Now here light is completely plane polarized. If you want, you can write here when unpolarized light, unpolarized. Okay. So this is our unpolarized light. So this is the crystal. So these two are nothing but refracted two polarized light rays. And next one, double refraction. So this is nothing but double refraction. Here we will get two refracted rays, double refraction, or it is also known as birefringence. when an unpolarized light is made to pass through certain crystals, then it split up into two refracted rays. This phenomenon is known as double refraction or birefringence. So in what type of crystals we can observe this double refraction? So example for crystals, calcite, quartz, mica, selenite, etc. So in these crystals we can observe this double refraction or birefringence. So like this, it split up into two light rays. Mica, selenite, tourmaline, etc. See here, among these two refracted light rays, one of the refracted light ray obeys laws of refraction, and that refracted light ray is known as ordinary ray, and the other doesn't obey laws of refraction, and that is known as extraordinary ray, or we can say O ray or E ray. O ray means ordinary ray, E ray means extraordinary ray. among the two refracted rays one of the refracted ray obeys laws of refraction and the ray is known as ordinary ray. Obeys the laws of refraction. But then the ray is known as ordinary ray or O ray, and the other one doesn't obey laws of refraction. The other one doesn't obey laws of refraction, known as extraordinary ray. Or E-ray. So which obeys laws of refraction is known as ordinary ray, which doesn't obey laws of refraction is known as extraordinary ray. And by considering the ordinary and extraordinary ray, in case of this double refraction, among these two, one ray obeys laws of refraction and another doesn't obey laws of refraction. If you are going to consider the ordinary ray and extraordinary ray, ordinary ray extraordinary ray. So here, if ordinary ray doesn't obey laws of refraction, then the refractive index of the crystal, because we are discussing this double refraction in case of crystals. If this ordinary ray doesn't, the ordinary ray obeys laws of refraction. That means, in case of this ordinary ray, a refractive index of the crystal remains constant, whereas the refractive index of the crystal with respect to extraordinary ray is different on the basis of angle of incidence. So this is another difference how we are going to identify ordinary ray and extraordinary ray. So here a refractive index of the crystal is constant. So here a refractive index changes with angle of incidence, or you can write refractive index is different. And second one, so ordinary ray, second difference is velocity of light is same in all the directions. Velocity of light is same in all the directions. So here velocity of light is different in different directions. So these are the differences between ordinary ray and extraordinary ray. In crystals, in a particular direction, the velocity of ordinary ray is equal to velocity of this extraordinary ray. In crystals, in a particular direction at which the velocity of ordinary ray is equal to velocity of extraordinary ray, or we can say the direction at which there is no double refraction takes place. That direction in the crystals is known as optic axis. So optic axis is nothing but along a particular direction there is no double refraction takes place. That means during that instant velocity of this ordinary ray is equal to velocity of extraordinary ray. Optic axis. In crystals, in crystals in a particular direction the velocity of the ordinary ray is equal to velocity of the extraordinary ray, or we can say the direction in the crystals at which double refraction takes place. So that direction is known as optic axis. If crystals having one optic axis are known as uniaxial optics, uniaxial crystals. If crystals having two optic axes are known as biaxial crystals, uniaxial crystals and biaxial crystals. Uniaxial crystals the crystals having one optic axis the crystals having one optic axis are known as uniaxial crystals. Example for uniaxial crystals: selenite, quartz, tourmaline, etc. So these crystals are having one optic axis. Then biaxial crystals. Biaxial crystals, the name itself indicates bi, means two. The crystals having two optic axes are known as biaxial crystals. Examples for biaxial crystals: mica, selenite, borax, etc. So these crystals are having two optic axes. In some crystals, the refractive index with respect to extraordinary ray, is greater than that of the refractive index of ordinary ray. Then such type of crystals are known as positive crystals. In case of positive crystals, a refractive index with respect to extraordinary ray is greater than that for ordinary ray. Positive crystals the refractive index for extraordinary ray is greater than that for ordinary ray. Then such type of crystals are known as positive crystals. So here example for positive crystal: quartz. So in case of quartz, refractive index for extraordinary ray is equal to a refractive index of ordinary ray. Symbolically we can write a refractive index with respect to extraordinary ray is greater than a refractive index than that for ordinary ray. If refractive index of ordinary ray is greater than a refractive index of the crystal with respect to refractive index of the crystal with respect to extraordinary ray is greater than a refractive index of the crystal with respect to ordinary ray, then velocity of ordinary ray is less than velocity of extraordinary ray. We can write like this, because we know that from Snell's law, N2 by N1 is equal to V1 divided by V2. This is equal to lambda 1 divided by lambda 2. So here n2 in numerator, v2 in denominator, inversely proportional, n and v. Therefore we can write, if NE is greater than NO, then VE is less than VO. Then in some crystals, refractive index of the crystal for a extraordinary ray is less than that for ordinary ray, then such type of crystals are known as negative crystals. Negative crystals the refractive index for a extraordinary ray is less than that for ordinary ray. Then such a type of crystals, are known as negative crystals. Example, calcite. So calcite is one of the example for a negative crystal. So in this crystal, a refractive index for ordinary ray is less than that for so refractive index of extraordinary ray is less than that for ordinary ray. Therefore refractive index with respect to extraordinary ray is less than that for ordinary ray. So here velocity with respect to E ray is greater than velocity with respect to O ray. Okay. So as like as a Polaroid, so we are going to use Nicol prism to produce and to analyze plane polarized light. And this Nicol prism eliminates one ray by total internal reflection, that is, it eliminates ordinary ray by total internal reflection and transmits extraordinary ray. And hence transmitted extraordinary ray is completely plane polarized. So this device is known as Nicol prism. Sometimes these terms are helpful in competitive examinations. So better you note down that one. Nicol prism. It is the device which is the device which is used to produce and analyze plane polarized light. It is constructed by calcite crystal in such a way that it eliminates in such a way that eliminates O ray by total internal reflection and transmits E ray. Hence the transmitted E ray is completely plane polarized. Okay, that means this Nicol prism is made up of calcite crystal. So it eliminates ordinary ray. That means again we can observe double refraction in case of Nicol prism. The ray which obeys laws of refraction, that is known as ordinary ray, which doesn't obey laws of refraction, that is known as extraordinary ray. So this Nicol prism is going to eliminate, or it is going to observe ordinary ray by total internal reflection. And hence it transmits extraordinary ray. Therefore, the transmitted extraordinary ray is completely plane polarized. Next one is Doppler effect. So already you have learned about this Doppler effect. So according to this Doppler effect, there is a change in frequency of light wave when there is a relative velocity between source and observer. So we know that already this concept you have studied in P1. When observer is at a stationary and the source is moving away from the observer, or you can imagine yourself, you are standing on the platform. Now train is moving away from you by blowing the horn. As the train moves away from you, the frequency of that sound decreases. Similarly, when that train approaches by blowing the horn towards you, then the frequency of a sound increases. That means there is apparent change in frequency when there is a relative velocity between source and observer. So this is known as a Doppler effect. So in case of a Doppler effect, if suppose source is at stationary, this is the light source, you just imagine yourself. Now we are discussing about light, not sound. So this is our source. Now source is at rest. Observer is also at rest. Source at rest, observer at rest. If a light is emitted from this source to the observer, then there is no change in frequency of light, because both source and observer are at rest. If suppose this source moves away from this observer, then frequency of light decreases. Or when this source moves towards this observer, frequency of light increases. Then according to this Doppler effect, we can write apparent frequency nu is equal to original frequency into 1 plus or minus V divided by C. Here this nu is nothing but apparent frequency. It may increase or decrease depending upon the relative velocity between source and observer. This is the original frequency when these two are at rest. V is nothing but a relative velocity between source and observer, and C is nothing but speed of light. Nu apparent frequency nu naught original frequency V relative velocity between source and observer, and c speed of light. So this is small b. So you are getting confusion, better you write like this one. V by C, small b by c, small b by c. So here, if you are going to write 1 plus v by c, 1 plus v by c means frequency increases, that represents source is moving towards the observer. So frequency decreases means wavelength increases. If you are going to write 1 minus v by c, that represents frequency decreases, plus frequency increases, wavelength decreases. 1 minus v by c, frequency decreases and hence wavelength increases. Frequency decreases when source moves away from the observer. Similarly, now I am going to consider a wavelength of yellow light or sodium light. The wavelength of yellow light, approximately it is 589 nanometer. 589 nanometer. So if you are going to measure the wavelength of yellow light on the earth surface, you just imagine yourself, we will get a 589 nanometer. In electromagnetic spectrum, visible region lies between 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. That means this wavelength lies in between 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. nanometer to 700 nanometer, that is in visible spectrum. We know that among the 7 colors, wavelength is minimum for violet, but our eye is sensitive for blue color. So wavelength of blue is minimum as compared with red. So we know that VIBGYOR. So our human eye is very sensitive for this color. Therefore, I am going to neglect these 2 colors. Among these 5 colors, wavelength is minimum for blue and wavelength is maximum for red. So wavelength minimum for blue and maximum for red means here wavelength increased from 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. Approximately blue color lies towards 400 nanometer and red color lies towards 700 nanometer. So this is blue and this is a red in visible spectrum. And this value 589 nanometer lies between 400 nanometer and 700 nanometer. Now you just imagine yourself, if that same yellow light or sodium vapor light emitting from a star, now we are observing by standing on the earth. If you are going to calculate wavelength of that yellow light when it is emitting from a star, this is the earth surface, a person standing on the earth. Now that light is emitting from this star, that is yellow light or sodium vapor light. While measuring on the earth surface, its value is 589 nanometer. But now that light is, same light is emitting from a star which is far away from us. When that light reaches the surface, earth surface, if you are going to measure the wavelength of that same light, then we will get the value that is greater than 589 nanometer. So here wavelength of light, wavelength of yellow light is greater than 589 nanometer. Greater than 589 nanometer means that value shifted towards red. That value shifted towards red. So here wavelength is increasing. Wavelength increases means frequency should be decreases. When wavelength increases, frequency of light decreases. That means this star and earth are moving away from each other. They are moving like this. During this instant, it is as like as a observer, star as like as a source. Now they are moving apart. So here source, or you may think yourself, this observer is at a rest on the earth surface or stationary. So this is at a stationary. Now this star is moving because here wavelength is increasing, and hence frequency of a light wave decreases. That means they are moving away from each other. So this is nothing but expanding path. This is nothing but expanding path. After a Big Bang, heavy mass splits up into different fragments. Those fragments are still moving away from each other. Among the fragment, now I have considered this one, so which is emitting this yellow light. By measuring the wavelength of this yellow light while moving away from each other, the value of yellow light is greater than 589 nanometer. That means slightly that value shifted towards a red. This is known as red shift or expanding path. Now we are in expanding path. After certain instant, after completing their energy, those fragments again return to their original position. So returning to original position means during this instant, if you are going to measure the wavelength of that same yellow light, so this is moving away from the earth. Now here star is moving towards the earth. That is expanding path. It is moving towards the earth. Again, if you are going to measure wavelength of this yellow light emitting from the star, then here we will get this wavelength of yellow is less than 589 nanometer when this source approaching the earth, or when these two are approaching with each other. If you are going to measure the wavelength of yellow light, then we will get the value that is less than 589 nanometer. So less than 589 nanometer means from this original value, that value shifted towards blue in visible spectrum. So this is known as blue shift, a red shift, blue shift. During blue shift, wavelength decreases, frequency increases. That means source and observer are moving towards with each other. During red shift, source and observer are moving away from with each other. For 2 marks, they may ask in your annual examination. So define red shift and blue shift. Red shift, it is also known as expanding path. Now we are in expanding path. When source is moving away from the stationary observer, then the frequency of light, light wave decreases. Frequency of light wave decreases, and hence wavelength of light wave increased from shorter to longer wavelength. Shorter to longer wavelength. So here longer wavelength means you just imagine yourself red. Longer wavelength region or red region. This is known as a red shift. Then blue shift. This is expanding. Red shift. This is approaching. Blue shift. Blue shift or approaching path. When the source is moving, when the source is moving towards the stationary observer, then the frequency of light wave, frequency of light wave increases and hence wavelength of the light wave decreased from longer to shorter in bracket blue region in the spectrum in the spectrum. This is known as blue shift. So in case of red shift, frequency decreases. So apparent frequency is less than original frequency, and apparent wavelength is greater than original wavelength. So here frequency of light wave increases, apparent frequency is greater than original frequency, apparent wavelength is less than original wavelength. That means in this formula nu is equal to nu naught 1 plus or minus V divided by C. This is apparent frequency. This is original frequency. Similarly, we can write the expression for wavelength. Okay, so this is all about Doppler effect, red shift and blue shift. So now I am going to stop here. So in next class we shall see a few more concepts.